Waitress discovers billionaire's unexpected scar. 30-year-old family secret is finally exposed. The bell above the diner door jingled, and Sarah flashed a smile as another customer walked in, her mind already racing through the evening's to-do list. The familiar smell of fried food hung in the air, as comforting as a warm hug, a stark contrast to the chaos simmering just beneath the surface of her world. At 28, Sarah had been caught in the responsibilities of adulthood, balancing late-night shifts at the local diner while pouring every bit of her energy into caring for her ailing mother. But dreams had a way of slipping through your fingers like grains of sand, leaving only the weight of regret and the suffocating grip of unpaid medical bills. As she served Jack, an enigmatic figure known for his wealth and aloofness, she caught sight of the old scar on his forearm. It was a flash of vulnerability, a glimpse into a life that felt worlds apart from her own. He rarely engaged with the bustling life around him, often lost in thought, but tonight there was something different, something behind his eyes that pulled at her curiosity. Why was this billionaire back in their small town, hiding beneath layers of quiet acknowledgement and untold stories? The questions gnawed at her, setting her thoughts ablaze as she carried his plate over, but Jack's presence represented more than just a mystery. For Sarah, he became a bittersweet reminder of her own dreams left unchased. She watched him with a mixture of intrigue and trepidation, flickers of anger bubbling beneath the surface. Was she simply a waitress to him, a fleeting moment in a life he could easily forget? Those thoughts sank into the pit of her stomach, a heavy weight that mingled with her anxiety over her mother's condition, forcing her to confront the harsh reality of her existence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each passing day of banter turned deeper than she ever anticipated, each conversation peeling back layers of their guarded exteriors. Yet, amidst such moments of shared vulnerability, dread loomed behind her thoughts. What if that connection, the fragile bond they were building, was built on foundations that might crumble under the weight of old scars? She ached to discover more but feared the revelations that often accompanied such a desire. Then one evening, while rummaging through the dusty attic of her family home, she uncovered an old box full of newspaper clippings. Sliding them out with trembling fingers, her breath caught in her throat as their intertwined histories revealed themselves, secrets of betrayal that could rip open wounds long buried. The panic clawed at her resolve, setting her heart racing as reality sank in. She found herself at the precipice of a decision that could shatter or mend the fragile world she'd begun to construct with Jack. The night before their planned conversation about the family secrets that haunted them both, Sarah's phone buzzed. Urgent, yet infused with vulnerability, the message from Jack ignited a flurry of conflicting emotions within her. She felt the pull of hope battling with fear, the growing realization that what they faced might redefine everything. Could she truly confront her past, perhaps even find solace in the journey they would take together if only they could muster the courage to peel back the layers of pain and embrace the truth? The weight of uncertainty settled in her chest as she prepared to meet him, knowing that this could forge a new path or plunge them into darkness. As Sarah read Jack's message again, her heart raced. The words seemed heavy, charged with the anticipation of their upcoming talk. The diner had closed for the night, the familiar clatter of dishes now replaced by an oppressive silence. She leaned against the counter, staring out at the empty street, grappling with a deep-seated desire to break free from the chains of her past. Was she ready to confront the hidden truths, the dark family secrets that had, for too long, lurked in the shadowy corners of her life? The thought clawed at her mind, an insistent whisper that challenged the barriers she had built around her vulnerability. More importantly, she pondered, what might Jack think of her if he learned what loomed in the corners of her family history? At that moment, she couldn't afford to dwell on her fears. She was on the verge of stepping into a reality that could either unravel or fortify the connection she had with Jack. She had spent years putting on a brave face, navigating the trials of being a caregiver, often to the detriment of her own aspirations. Was this the moment she'd been waiting for, the time to reclaim her narrative, not just as a careworn waitress but as someone worthy of love and respect? As the clock ticked relentlessly toward their meeting, Sarah rehearsed what she might say. Each phrase was both a confession and an initiation. She was more than just a server, she had aspirations, a past, and unspoken dreams. The weight of her mother's illness and the looming debts felt like anchors, but perhaps this was the first step in severing those ties that bound her to the cycle of regret. When she finally arrived at their meeting spot, her heart pounded with equal parts excitement and dread. Jack stood there, leaning casually against a brick wall illuminated by the dim glow of a nearby street lamp. His eyes, typically so guarded, now held a mixture of curiosity and understanding as they met hers. "Hey," he greeted her softly. "Hey," she replied, her throat dry yet resolute. "Thanks for coming." "I know this isn't typical," he trailed off, searching for the right words. "Let's just lay it all out there," she urged, surprising herself with the firmness in her tone. As they exchanged tentative stories, Sarah began to uncover layers of Jack she hadn't seen before: a childhood marked by loss, expectations from his family that left him struggling for authenticity. In those shared moments of unveiling, Sarah's past began to feel less like a burden and more like a source of resilience, but then it happened: a slip of a word, a phrase unveiling a connection that cut deeper than either anticipated. Sarah's breath caught as she confronted the stark reflections of their intertwined family histories, revelations that tied their fates together in ways she hadn't ever imagined. The conversation tilted towards the edge of revelation, a precipice where both fear and hope coalesced. Sarah recognized the shift within herself. She was ready to confront the past, not just for herself, but for the sake of something greater. Being with Jack was a catalyst, compelling her to dismantle the defenses she'd carefully constructed surrounding her heart. "Maybe we both need to face what has been left unsaid," she suggested, eyes earnest. Jack nodded slowly, the gravity of her remark settling heavily between them. And in that moment, Sarah understood something pivotal about herself. This wasn't merely a chat about family secrets, it was unlocking the door to her own courage, a step towards redefining her own narrative. Yet as they began to delve deeper, the emotional depth threatened to engulf her, sending tremors of uncertainty through her veins. Could she truly unearth the truth, risk vulnerability, and alter the trajectory of both their lives? As Sarah contemplated the implications of their shared discoveries, she felt a tremor of anticipation and trepidation between them. The rawness of their connection was both electric and daunting, the truth hanging in the air like a fine mist, waiting to shape their realities. Just then, a notification pinged on Sarah's phone, shattering the moment. Jack glanced down, his expression shifting abruptly. "I think you should see this," he muttered, scrolling through a message that seemed to change everything. Sarah's dread returned for the first time that night, and she braced herself for whatever revelation awaited them. This time, there was no turning back. The cold grip of dread enveloped Sarah as Jack held up his phone. The light from the screen illuminated his features, revealing a mix of concern and disbelief that mirrored her own inner turmoil. Her thoughts raced, questions colliding in her mind as she processed the nature of Jack's sudden shift in demeanor. "What is it?" She struggled to keep her voice steady, the words feeling heavy on her tongue. Uncertainty wrapped around her like a fog, threatening to smother her newfound sense of courage. "It's about us," Jack ventured, his words clipped and cautious. He was attempting to navigate a conversation that felt as delicate as glass. "This message, it seems to connect back to our families." As Sarah leaned closer, her heart pounded louder, as though echoing the realities she was both desperate to confront and terrified to face. The screen displayed a family photo, cheerful faces frozen in time, shared laughter, a stark contrast to the truths that loomed in Sarah's heart. She recognized the names attached to them, shadowy figures painted in the memories that often felt more like hallucinatory flashes than real life. "What? How is this possible?" she gasped, the realization that Jack's family history entwined with her own igniting a firestorm of conflicting emotions. Jack's brow furrowed deeper as he scrolled down, revealing details that felt like a slow unraveling of a tightly knit tapestry. "It's a connection I didn't know existed until now." Apparently, our families there are significant ties, major events, significant events. The term sliced through Sarah's anxiety, igniting her deeply buried instinct to protect herself from potential heartbreak. What do you mean? What else does it say? The words tumbled from her mouth, laced with desperation. She felt the thin line between their shared understanding and the gravity of hidden history stretching taut. Just these details about a business venture, a tragedy, something about a land dispute, he replied, his voice dropping as if the very mention of it could unleash the past's ghostly secrets. And your family was involved. This could ruin everything we've just started. In that moment, the weight of her revelations collided harshly against her aspirations, the volcano of past grievances threatening to blow. Could this possibly be the storm that would dismantle everything she had begun to rebuild? The mere thought filled her with trepidation, sending her spiraling into a vortex of doubt. Jack, what if knowing this truth only brings more pain? What if it tears us apart instead of bringing us closer? As vulnerability beckoned, she grappled with powerlessness. Her voice trembled but remained unwavering, revealing the strength hidden beneath her confusion. We have to find out, Sarah, he stated firmly, determination emanating from his every word. This matters not just for us, but for the truth. His insistence churned her own resolve, though she wrestled with a sense of defiance. It was easy to succumb to the cowardice bred from fear, but what of the courage she had finally begun to foster? Could she really take the risk of diving deeper into a rabbit hole of family narratives prolonged in shadows? Maybe if we confront this together, we can face whatever it leads us to, Jack suggested, his eyes alight with a blend of challenge and hope. But it's going to require both of us to be open to what this means and the steps we need to take. It's not just about our connection anymore, it's about understanding ourselves. The urgency in his tone ignited something within her. She had spent so long hiding, suffocating under the weight of others' expectations, and now, here was this chance to reclaim her truth. Yet now, the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. Okay, she nodded slowly, steeling herself for the journey ahead. Whatever it is, we'll face it. But I can't promise it won't hurt. Jack met her gaze with a mixture of appreciation and steadfast resolve. We're in this together. In that shared moment of determination, Sarah realized that this wasn't merely about secrets but about carving a new identity forged from clarity, not just about tragedy but resilience, trust, and ultimately, healing. But the unforeseen consequences of their revelations lingered above them like a storm cloud, threatening to break. Just then, a new notification pinged again, the sound sharp in the tense silence. Jack's expression shifted, the weight of another message crashing over them like the tide. This might change everything again, he muttered, as they both braced themselves for what would come next, both curious and fearful of the outcome. The notification pulsed against the dark backdrop of their shared uncertainty. Sarah watched as Jack's finger hovered over the screen, hesitating as though the next tap held the power to seal their fate. Anxiety clawed at her mind, each second stretching unbearably as he read the message. What does it say? The urgency in her voice startled her. It was a demand that she didn't intend, fueled by a primal need for answers before the shadows clouded their future completely. Jack's brow furrowed deeper still. It's from someone named Clara. She claims to know about the land dispute and has evidence we need to see. But she also warns that exploring this could lead to serious consequences. Sarah felt a cold chill creep down her spine. The stakes had been raised, and the notion of repercussions loomed ominously over them like dark thunderheads. Every fiber of her being screamed to retreat, to sever ties with the past and protect her future from the crumbling foundation beneath her feet. But Jack's steadfast presence anchored her, urging her to confront the tempest instead of hiding. The truth might hurt, but as we just said, we can't discover who we are until we explore this. Jack's voice was firm yet gentle, a reminder of their newfound commitment to each other. But how much more can we uncover? Sarah replied, a mixture of fear and determination flooding her thoughts. What if the truths we reveal are too deep to forgive? What if they ruin everything? She couldn't deny the part of her that longed to shield herself from the pain and uncertainty that accompanied these revelations. But another aspect wrestled for space, the desire to own her narrative rather than live in the shadow of family baggage. The weight of her identity felt more pressing now than ever. Jack's hand moved, decisively tapping the screen, pulling up a message from Clara. "I think we need to contact her, meet up. Her tone suggests she knows more than we do." As Sarah processed the implications of this new step, her pulse quickened with both fear and an unexpected exhilaration. Violence stirred under her skin, her instincts pushing against the dull, dreary confines of her previous existence. Leaning into Jack, she found herself craving clarity both in their relationship and in the fog of her family's past. "Okay," she breathed, the resolve crystallizing within her. "Let us meet her. I can't promise I'll be ready for everything, but I want to forge ahead together. We owe it to ourselves to know what we're truly facing." Jack's expression softened, pride flickering in his eyes. "That's the spirit. This is about reclaiming our lives, not just surviving." They decided to meet Clara the following evening at a cafe that used to serve as the nexus of whispered family connections. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah as they discussed plans. Just hours before, they had stood on the precipice of ruin, yet now, she sensed the flicker of possibility. As they sat in silence, contemplating their uncertain path, Sarah found her hand resting atop Jack's. A rush of warmth surged within her, a promise that they would traverse the depth of difficulty together, no matter the cost. After what felt like an eternity, a sense of determination settled deep in her chest. Facing whatever lay ahead was preferable to curling into the shadows. She chose to confront not just the past but herself, embracing the unknown that promised to shape her into something stronger. But just as she fortified herself against the turbulence brewing, Jack's phone buzzed again with a new message, its chime slicing through the air, a raw reminder that the narrative was still unfolding, still full of twists. "Are you ready?" he asked, the unease in his eyes unmistakable. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her heart racing as they prepared to take the next step. As the sun dipped lower, casting an orange glow on the edges of their reality, she couldn't shake the sensation of change closing in, beckoning her toward a confrontation that promised far more than she anticipated. What else could Clara have to share? Sarah wondered, anxiety twisting into determination as the echoes of the past loomed above them. It felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, daring to dive into the depths of her family's secrets. The moment of truth was near, tracing shadows that whispered of lives interwoven by fate. Jack's gaze met hers, both a challenge and a promise, a silent agreement that they were about to embark on a journey neither could truly prepare for. The unresolved queries hung heavily in the air, and as she stepped forward with him, she questioned if this would be the chapter that led to newfound strength or devastating loss. Would their quest for truth fortify them, or would it tear them apart irrevocably? In that charged moment, with the future hanging in the balance, Sarah felt a flicker of something she hadn't embraced in years, a readiness to confront her past and carve out a clearer vision for her future. Yet, as the night enveloped them, she couldn't suppress the lurking apprehension shadowing her heart. "No turning back," she murmured, as they moved toward the uncertainty, momentarily tethered by their shared resolve. Yet, a single thought raced through her mind: what if the truth they uncovered was darker than they ever anticipated? The air in the cafe was thick with anticipation, each table occupied yet shrouded in hushed deals and whispered exchanges. Sarah's senses sharpened as she absorbed the atmosphere around her, vibrant yet tense, much like her own internal conflict. Jack's grip on her hand served as both reassurance and an anchor, grounding her as they prepared to unravel the tapestry of secrets that had remained hidden for too long. Clara was late, and with each passing minute, Sarah's mind spiraled through doubt and concern. What kind of evidence could possibly exist that would shed light on her family's entangled past? A nagging anxiety settled in her stomach, one that twisted in knots of uncertainty. Was she truly prepared for what lay ahead? "So, what do you think she has?" Jack's question stirred her from her thoughts. His brows knitted in concern but also masked curiosity. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "If she has what she claims, it could change everything." Jack nodded, the resolve etched on his face. And you know we can't ignore it. No matter how painful it might be. His words resonated within her, igniting a flicker of strength that she hadn't fully realized existed. She was tired of being overwhelmed by her past, and perhaps unraveling these truths was the key to unshackling herself from the burden of family secrets. Finally, the door swung open, and in walked Clara, a striking woman with a presence that commanded attention. Dressed in professional yet effortlessly chic attire, she exuded an aura of confidence that sent a shiver of unease through Sarah. Clara scanned the room before zeroing in on their table with purpose. "Sarah, Jack," she began, her voice smooth yet edged with seriousness. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I know this is not an easy conversation to have, but it's necessary." The woman slid into the booth opposite them, and Sarah felt every gaze in the cafe turn inward, drawing her into an ever watchful scrutiny that heightened her pulse. She focused on Clara's expressive eyes, seeking the truth they promised. "I've uncovered documents that could clarify much about your family's situation," Clara continued, seemingly unaffected by the intrigued whispers around them. "There are disputes that trace back several decades, connections that involve more than you might realize." Fear coiled tightly within Sarah. "What do you mean by connections? Are they legal issues, financial?" "Both, actually," Clara replied, her countenance sober. "But they go deeper than just legal wrangling. They involve decisions made by your grandparents that ripple through to today. I think there are motivations that fueled their actions, things they never disclosed to you." The words landed heavily, forcing Sarah to wrestle with a torrent of emotions. Could these actions shape her identity further? Or were they merely shadows of their own turbulent times, something she shouldn't carry forward? It felt unfair, hadn't they suffered enough by keeping their truths locked away? "Why are you willing to help us?" Jack interrogated, his tone firm yet curious. "What's your stake in this?" Clara leaned in, her gaze intense. "As someone who has witnessed the consequences of buried truths in my own life, I believe knowledge is power. The secrets can bind you if you let them. It's time someone gave you the choice, your choice." The tension thickened, the air saturated with the weight of her words. Sarah felt an urge to confront those buried feelings, the shame, the confusion, the fear of facing revelations that might reshape everything she thought she knew about herself. Her fingers tightened around Jack's, a grounding reminder amidst the churning tide of uncertainty. "What else do you have?" she asked, her voice steadier than before, igniting a flicker of defiance beneath the fear. She could feel the shift within herself as she leaned slightly forward, challenging the suffocating silence that surrounded them. Clara produced a manila envelope, its corners dog-eared and worn, as if it carried the weight of history itself. "This contains the first of the documents, land titles, ownership contracts, and letters. It's all here, along with the names involved. I hope you're ready to confront this." The moment hung heavy, a precipice on the edge of transformation. Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift as curiosity began to replace dread. What if this was the key not just to understanding her past, but also to redefining her future? The risk felt enormous, yet she knew, with resolute clarity, that this was a chance to take control. "What if we refuse?" she challenged, an ember of rebellion igniting in her voice. "What if we choose to walk away?" Clara's gaze remained unwavering. "Then you'll live your lives unaware, but the scars will remain, affecting every decision you make. Not just as individuals, but in your relationship and beyond." The challenge stared back at her, and Sarah realized this was not just about her family, it was about her own evolution as a person ready to embrace the complexities of her lineage. Shadows from the past would either imprison her or empower her. Either way, the choice lay firmly in her hands. Amidst the unspoken truths swirling in the cafe, a single question echoed in her mind, growing louder with each heartbeat: could she really emerge unscathed from revelations that threatened to redefine her history? In that instant, everything revolved around that decision, and Sarah felt the weight of her future looming just beyond the veil of disclosure, waiting for her daring leap into the unknown. The silence that followed Clara's stern warning felt like an electric current running through the cafe. Sarah's heart raced as she refused to let fear dictate her actions any longer. This was her moment, a juncture in her life where she could choose to ignore the past or confront it head-on. The envelope felt like a gateway, and she knew she had to step through it, no matter how dark the path ahead may appear. How much can we trust this? Jack's unease reflected back to her, but behind his worry shone a sense of partnership. She knew the stakes were high, but allowing the past to continue lurking in the shadows was not an option. Trust is earned, Clara stated simply, her tone holding a hint of sharpness. But that begins with being honest about who you are and where you come from. Your family, Sarah, made choices that have bound you perhaps unintentionally, but they are chains that you can break. The possibility of liberation swirled tantalizingly close. The instinct to recoil was strong, yet the call to discovery was stronger. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for the envelope. The moment her fingers brushed against the worn material, a wave of determination washed over her. This was not just about family history, it was about her own growth, her own understanding of self. What if we find something we don't like? She queried, forcing herself to look into Clara's eyes. The fear of exposure loomed large, but it was countered by an emerging urgency within her to learn, to evolve. What if we uncover something that changes how we see ourselves? Exactly, Clara replied without a hint of hesitation. But how you choose to react to those revelations, that's where your strength lies. Knowing who you are will empower you to forge your own path, free from the weight of past decisions. Sarah's mind churned as she processed these words. The significance was lost on her. This was about more than unearthing secrets. It was about choosing to engage with the complexity of her lineage. Let us do it, she finally declared, her voice steady and resolute. There was no room for uncertainty now. Show me the documents. Show me the truth. As Clara slid the envelope across the table, a collective hush seemed to fall over the cafe, as if everyone knew history was about to be rewritten. Sarah's pulse thrummed in her ears, a mix of anticipation and dread, but she was determined not to let fear rule her life any longer. The first sheet that emerged was a land title, an aged document emboldened with names that echoed through her childhood tales. Her grandparents' names were scrawled in elegant cursive, the ink perhaps a testament to lives lived and choices made. Every letter felt heavy with implication. Look closely, Clara urged, her voice a whisper, as if speaking too loudly could shatter this fragile moment. Each name represents a decision that shaped your family's fate. As Sarah analyzed the details, pieces of her family's past began to slot together, revealing a mosaic that had remained hidden. With each revelation, the realization of her family's struggles became tangible, almost visceral. The pattern of decisions they had made navigating life's challenges, sacrificing for future generations, it was different than the shame she had anticipated. It was messy but undeniably real. Jack leaned closer, examining the documents with her. They exchanged glances laden with apprehension and growing understanding. This is more than just secrets, it's a legacy, he murmured. A narrative built on pain and resilience. And right there, Sarah felt it, a shift inside her. The knots in her stomach began to loosen. While the shadows weighed heavy, they also told a story of endurance, one she was now ready to embrace. What's next? She asked, her voice barely more than a whisper, yet it was infused with an unmistakable strength. She had chosen to step into her past, the direction forward felt charged with purpose. Following this discovery would unearth layers of complexity she hadn't anticipated, the deeper implications still looming ahead. Clara smiled, as if seeing the resolve forming within. Now, you confront those who might have answers, family members who are alive and the stakeholders of this legacy. Are you ready? Only then did Sarah grasp the gravity of Clara's question. This was no longer just about documents, it was a road that could lead to confrontations, perhaps even fraught emotional reckoning with relatives whose motivations intertwined with the very fabric of her identity. She felt the quickening of her heartbeat, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through her. Yes, she replied, her voice now a thunder of certainty. I'm ready. As she met Clara's gaze, the cafe's ambient noise faded into a distant hum, leaving only the vibrant call of possibility. The edges of her world were softening as she felt the reins of her life slip firmly into her grasp, but as they sat there, surrounded by history and decisions yet to be made, one unresolved thought loomed over Sarah, a sense of unease that lurked beneath her resolve. How would those she reached out to respond? The potential for confrontation lingered, waiting to either fracture her newfound strength or solidify it into something unbreakable. With that heavy consideration, the path ahead blurred into uncertainty, prompting a firm resolve in her chest. A voice within urged her on. The time had come to face them. The moment Sarah stepped out of the cafe, the chill of the autumn air prickled her skin, mixing with the adrenaline rushing through her veins. Each breath felt amplified, every step she took a commitment to the unknown. She was ready to confront the shadows of her lineage, but doubt still nestled in the corners of her mind. How would her family react? Could she handle whatever lay ahead? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that intertwined, mirroring her own conflicting emotions. Digging deeper into her family's history was no small feat, it was a plunge into waters she had long avoided. But now, the urgency to understand her place within that narrative outweighed her fears. She could already envision the face of her estranged uncle, a man she had spent her youth idolizing from afar, only to shy away from the reality of their severed ties when family reunions had devolved into tension-laden encounters. She gathered her thoughts as she walked the familiar streets, the sounds of the city melting into a steady hum. Sarah needed a plan, a way to address the issues she had long skirted and touch upon the delicate threads of familial connections that had frayed over the years. The weight of her decision settled in her chest with both a sense of finality and exhilaration. Hours of contemplation led her to her grandmother's old townhouse, the very place where bedtime stories had come to life in the flickering light of her childhood. She stood at the weathered door, heart pounding as if her pulse were urging her to retreat. Yet the wisdom Clara had shared echoed in her mind: you have the power to engineer your response. With a forward motion, she knocked. Her uncle answered, the lines on his face deepening in surprised recognition. Words spilled out, hesitant but resolute. I need to talk to you about our family. It was there that the first flickers of uncertainty settled in. Would he listen, or would he dismiss her claim to understand a past that had shaped her? You'd better come in, he replied, his voice crackling with a mixture of warmth and wariness. Inside, the familiar smells of cinnamon and old books enveloped her, rekindling memories that threaded through her childhood. She chose her words carefully, each sentence forged from the resolve she had cultivated within herself during this transformative journey. I found some documents, and I want to talk about what they reveal about us. His expression shifted, a flicker of unease etched into his features. You shouldn't dig up the past, Sarah. Sometimes it's better left alone. In that moment, Sarah sensed the first taste of resentment rise within her. Why did he insist on shrouding truth in secrecy? Did he fear accountability, or was it merely the pain of confronting a history imbued with loss? But we need to understand, otherwise history will repeat itself. I'm not asking you to hide anymore. The tension in the room thickened. Sarah could feel her stomach clench as she pressed on. This was her test, a confrontation she had anticipated yet dreaded. His lineage was her lineage. His struggles, intertwined with hers. What if facing the truth could help us heal? Open a door instead of closing one? She implored. Would he value that possibility as she did? Her uncle remained silent, his gaze turned inward, as if wrestling with ghosts of a time long past. The weight of his decision became palpable, a standoff between self-preservation and the possibility for change. Each moment stretched, turning the air heavy with unvoiced fears and aspirations. She took a breath and leaned closer to the heart of the matter. If we don't confront these shadows together, we risk being defined by them forever. Suddenly, realization flickered in his eyes, a glimmer of acknowledgement. Would he choose to face the truth beside her? Just as his lips parted, a loud knock interrupted, turning their focus to the door with anxiety creeping back in. She hadn't expected company. Who is it? She asked, balancing on the precipice of revelation and the unknown. Tension mounted, and the air filled with Unspoken dread. What unexpected truth awaited them beyond that door? As the handle turned slowly, each moment palpably fraught with the potential for both confrontation and unexpected alliance, Sarah braced herself for whatever was to come. The door creaked open, revealing a woman with striking features and an air of authority that crackled in the atmosphere. She was younger than Sarah had anticipated. Confusion mingled with recognition. This was Andrea, her uncle's daughter, her cousin whom she had scarcely met. The last time they crossed paths was nearly a decade ago, and Sarah was unsure how much they genuinely knew of each other's lives. Sarah? Andrea's eyes widened for a brief moment, catching the tension that hung in the air like thick smoke. Yes, Sarah managed, glancing at her uncle, whose face had betrayed no emotion, a mask she had grown accustomed to in the presence of family. What is going on? Andrea inquired, stepping fully inside and closing the door behind her. Instinctively, Sarah recognized this moment as pivotal. She could either retreat into the safety of silence or leverage the unexpected presence of her cousin as a conduit to deeper resonance within their shared family history. I needed to talk to him about some family matters, she said, her voice reflecting a newfound firmness, a reminder of her own evolving strength. Family matters? Andrea echoed, her brows knitting together in curiosity. This doesn't sound good. No, it's important, Sarah replied, her resolve hardening. There was no abandoning the mission built on the foundation of her recent discoveries, especially now that another relative stood in the room, one she could potentially count on as an ally. Her uncle shifted uncomfortably in his chair, a subtle warning that sent reverberations of doubt hurling through Sarah's mind. Yet she pressed forward. I found documents, things that speak to our family's secret, struggles we have carried for too long, she explained, not wanting to waste another moment. I think it's time for what? Her uncle interrupted bluntly, the protective instinct unmistakably boiling beneath the surface. To sink us deeper into a family drama that has long been settled in silence. The challenge encapsulated Sarah's internal conflict, the desire to unveil and the urge to protect the latent connections festering beneath the surface. No, she said quickly, feeling the warmth of her conviction brighten her tone. To heal. We can't keep hiding from our past. It's making us weak. Andrea chimed in. Isn't it also making us curious? What do you want to find out, Sarah? Her cousin's voice coaxed, revealing an interest that ignited Sarah's hope. I want to know why we distanced ourselves, she admitted, the enormity of her words soothing yet stirring violent ripples inside her. There are patterns in our family that need unraveling, patterns we might unknowingly repeat. Her uncle's expression remained stoic, a stone wall rising between them. But Andrea's brow furrowed deeper, suggesting contemplation rather than dismissal. There's truth to that, she finally said. We've been holding our breath for too long. The atmosphere shifted as Andrea's presence allowed Sarah to take a courageous step further. What if we could confront this shadow together, the unspoken truths that haunt us? What if facing it could lead us all into the light? A flicker of longing raced through her uncle's eyes, his posture softening just slightly as he wrestled with the prospect of vulnerability. Fine. Tell me what you're thinking. His voice was low, but the courage slimmed the edges of his acceptance, with palpable tension giving way to possibility. Sarah took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle comfortably on her shoulders. Perhaps she wasn't alone in this pursuit after all. Andrea's support was unexpected but welcome. Just as Sarah was about to lay out her findings, possessing an urgency to unfold the layers shrouding their family's narrative, she heard a sharp knock at the door again, louder this time. The interruption sent a shiver down her spine. This time, it felt like a prelude to confrontation rather than casual intrusion. Again. Her uncle muttered, casting a wary glance at Sarah. Panic flickered momentarily. Who could be knocking now? Suddenly the door felt like a portal, one that might usher in either closure or tumult. Taking a deep breath, Sarah steadied herself. The truth was coming, but at what cost? Who were they about to face together, and what would it mean for the conversations she had just begun? As the handle turned, anticipation hung in the air, thick with questions yet to be answered. Would this newest arrival forge more alliances or deepen the chasms of their history? The door swung open abruptly, and Sarah's heart raced as a stranger stepped inside, an imposing figure shrouded in a tailored dark coat, exuding an energy that seemed to vibrate through the air. He scanned the room, his gaze locking onto Sarah, who suddenly felt incredibly exposed. "Who are you?" Her uncle's voice rose, revealing an edge sharper than before. The tension in the room crackled like electricity, escalating the stakes of the already fraught encounter. "Michael," the stranger replied, his voice smooth and commanding. "I'm here about the family matters you mentioned." His eyes darted towards the documents laid out on the table, remnants of Sarah's quest for understanding, and then back to her, assessing, discerning. "Family matters?" Andrea echoed with alarm. Her subtle posture suggested that she was grasping the increasing complexity of this situation, her earlier curiosity evolving into apprehensive intrigue. "Yes," Michael affirmed, stepping further into the space. "I've come to address her findings and the implications they carry." His presence shifted the air, lending a sense of urgency that Sarah had instinctively yearned for but had not fully anticipated. "What do you know about this?" her uncle demanded, his tone defensive. It ignited a spark of contradiction inside Sarah. She recognized his need for control clashing against the tide of inevitable revelations. "Enough," Michael stated plainly, locking eyes with Sarah. "You're on the brink of uncovering truths that could reshape your family's narrative. But there are layers yet to peel back, and if unprepared, they may wound you deeper than you think." His warning resonated with Sarah, igniting both fear and resolve within her. What lay beneath the surface wasn't just familial tension, it might pull her into a vortex of old grudges and painful legacies. Yet, she wanted to know. She needed to know. "And what do you have to do with this?" she challenged, her voice gaining strength. The conviction she had started to mold was taking on a life of its own. "What makes you so essential to this?" Michael's expression shifted, the confidence giving way to something more vulnerable. "I'm part of the story you're trying to reclaim, Sarah. Your family's past intertwines with mine in ways that hold significance. If you're serious about pursuing this path, we should explore it together." It was then that Sarah realized the hidden potential that lay before her, not just the pursuit of truth, but the possibility of forging alliances that would support her precarious journey. Yet the thought of uncovering long-buried secrets, of revealing her family's fractures, felt like holding a lit match to a powder keg. "I won't walk into this blind," she asserted, grounding herself. "If we're going to unravel this, I want a complete understanding of what I'm stepping into." Michael nodded, respect and challenge dancing in his gaze. "That's fair. But you must be willing to confront what lies at the foundation of these truths, and sometimes that means confronting parts of yourself that might feel threatening. Are you ready for that?" Sarah hesitated, the weight of the question pressing down on her. Her journey towards clarity had already shifted her perspective. She could no longer ignore the familial echoes of resentment and loss, nor the strength she felt in confronting them. Would facing this hidden narrative unlock a deeper understanding of herself? "Yes," she finally replied, her voice steady yet filled with trepidation. "I'm ready." As she spoke, a chilling thought crept into her mind. What if she wasn't just unearthing her family's past, but also awakening dormant ghosts that would resist her every step? The danger of exploring the depths of her family's fears and failures loomed ominously, yet she sensed that this potential triumph might redefine her very existence. Before she could ponder further, Michael's phone buzzed with a notification. His expression darkened and he glanced away. "I have something important I need to attend to," he said, shifting his focus back to them. "But I'll return shortly. We have much to discuss." With that, the room fell silent, the air heavy with anticipation and doubt. Sarah sensed that this was not just a moment of pause but a pivotal crossroads. What would she learn when the search for her family's hidden legacy resumed? And at what cost would it come? The door clicked shut once again, leaving Sarah alone with the monumental weight of her decisions. Each revelation threatened to unearth something larger, something even more formidable than she had anticipated. How far had she truly come, and would she be prepared for what awaited her in the shadows of her family history? With a deep breath, Sarah stepped away from the lingering echoes of family tension and the uncertainty that gripped her heart. Weeks of arduous introspection had led her to this moment, her life transformed through an unrelenting pursuit of truth. The discoveries about her family's interconnected past had ignited a fire within her, one that compelled her to confront memories long buried and fears carefully tucked away. Seated at the kitchen table, surrounded by documents and half-finished conversations, Sarah resolved to anchor her newfound power and clarity. She could no longer be just a waitress defined by others. She had cultivated a pathway toward understanding herself through confrontation and resilience. "Let us talk," she said, meeting her uncle's gaze, his walls still standing tall but beginning to soften. Inviting Andrea to join, she sensed it was time for them to engage in rigorous discussion, not just about their fractured history, but also about the legacy they could create if they chose to reclaim their narrative together. With fingers grazing over the stack of papers like shards of glass revealing their sharp edges and hidden depths, she navigated through genealogies and whispered testimonies, delving into the complexities they had long denied. "We need to acknowledge these connections, the decisions that brought us to today. Ignoring them hasn't helped us heal." Andrea leaned in, curiosity sparking in her eyes. "You're right, a history ignored only binds us tighter," she echoed, a firm nod following her words. Sarah looked at her uncle, waiting. The silence in the air was almost tangible, fear and anticipation battling against the weight that had long pressed upon their spirits. Eventually, her uncle sighed, and the tension shifted. "Fine, let us do it then. But if we're going to rehash the past, we need to approach it honestly. No more concealment." That agreed honesty felt like precious currency. They forged ahead, peeling back layers of their history together, exploring shadows illuminated by understanding. Names and dates flew between them, coupled with emotional currents of regret, forgiveness, and eventual acceptance. Each document they examined became a testament to their journey, transforming the dialogue from mere revelations into a collective exploration of kinship, pain, and hope. As they shared insights and expressed their vulnerabilities, Sarah's heart filled with a profound sense of achievement. It became clear that her bravery was not just in opening old wounds but in nurturing the newfound strength that surged through her. Emotional bonds deepened, making her realize that the truths they discovered would not merely unravel them, they served to fortify their resilience in ways she could never have predicted. "Before this, I never saw us as interconnected," her uncle conceded with a softened expression. "You might be right, our past doesn't have to dictate our future." "Exactly," Sarah urged, a spark of newfound camaraderie igniting hope within her. "Facing our realities allows us to grow beyond our mistakes." After hours of discussion, questions transformed into reassurance, and their familial fissures began to heal. The previous apprehension morphed into anticipation. The path ahead gleamed with the potential to redefine not just their connections but also their individual lives profoundly. Eventually, conversations began to shift towards mutual support. What were their dreams beyond this? Sarah found voice for aspirations that had long been dormant within her, a business plan she envisioned for herself, a goal she could now genuinely pursue. With each declaration, she felt lighter, empowered with the recognition that her worth was not defined solely by her past family shadows. In closing, they allowed the warmth of collective understanding to cascade around them, binding the strands of their histories into a new tapestry of unity. They would find peace not just in revelations but in the courage to redefine what it meant to be family. Honoring the document-laden table, Sarah felt an immense wave of fulfillment wash over her. She was no longer just a waitress weighed down by responsibilities. She had reclaimed her life through understanding, vulnerability, and courage. She had proven to herself that her voice mattered. Filled with ambition and clarity, she ultimately stepped back into the world, her heart poised to conquer the yearning for a future seasoned with authenticity. The scars remained, but they became symbols not of pain, but of triumph. This was her moment. And as she stood firm in her commitment to forge ahead, she felt ready to embrace the blossoming opportunities that lay before her, finally reclaiming her narrative, the narrative she owned. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible journeys of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support for stories of growth and resilience. Leave a like now to help us reach even more people who need to hear these messages. Comment your reactions, theories, and personal experiences below because we want to know what did Sarah's journey inspire in you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let us illuminate the path of overcoming.